Joining me today is an incredible talent, screenwriter and author, David Nicholls. David, welcome to The Middle, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here. Nice to talk to you.
So, for those who do not know about your books, I want to talk about Us today because the adaptation is out, and I think it's getting a lot of hype. So, give me a brief synopsis without giving too much away.
So, Us is about a guy who loves his wife. They've been married for 20 years, they have a son, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, his wife says she wants to leave. And Douglas, the main character, is horrified. He can't bear the idea of not being part of a family. They have one last holiday, which they think about cancelling, but they decide to go through with, and it's a grand tour of Europe, of the great European cities. And on the holiday, Douglas decides that he's going to win back the love of his wife, rediscover the thrill of their marriage, and also build some kind of relationship with his son. And of course, things don't go well.
Doesn't quite
So,
go that way.
no, so it's a kind of road movie about marriage, about getting older, about how we change, about husbands and wives and parents and children, and all of the nitty gritty of being in a long-term relationship.
The timing for this is perfect because we can't actually travel. So it lets us do that mentally. But at the same time, after seeing what they go through, you don't feel as bad about not being able to go and do and
No,
see. So talk to me about filming the adaptation. I mean, for you, that must have been crazy to go from shooting where you're traveling and doing and seeing, and then to be in lockdown and have people experiencing it this in a whole new world. What is that juxtaposition like for you?
yeah, it's been very strange. We filmed it last summer when we could travel so easily around Europe, and it was a great joy to go to Paris and Amsterdam and Barcelona and Venice and all these extraordinary places and film in these amazing art galleries. They're going on a kind of art tour. So we filmed in the Louvre in Paris and the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, beautiful, beautiful places. And suddenly a year later, you can't go, it's kind of tantalizing. So it looks wonderful on screen. We wanted to make it a love letter to the great European cities, and it looks beautiful. And at the same time, you're right, they're having a terrible time. They're arguing, they're falling out, there's tension, there's confusion. So it's both the best holiday you can imagine and also the worst, also a nightmare.
It is a joy to watch. The four-part adaptation, it came to the BBC One in September,
Yeah.
and it's coming to PBS Masterpiece next year, right? Is that still
That's
the
right.
case?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, yep. And in the meantime, the novel is very much there. The novel is all from Douglas's point of view. It's a monologue. It's Douglas reacting to everything that's going wrong with his life. And what's interesting is when you film something, suddenly you have to pay attention to every character because it's a 3D world. So that's been really interesting as well, kind of fleshing out things that in the novel aren't quite as developed. So it's great to revisit it for me as well.
Yeah, and what is that like for you? Because you're on both ends of it. You're very
Yeah.
involved. So do you prefer writing a novel or do you prefer writing the screenplay when you have that same story?
I love the power of a novel. A novel is very fluid. You can move about in space and time. You can tell the reader things in a very direct way. You can tell the reader what the characters are thinking and feeling, not just what they're saying and doing. Whereas the script is like an instruction manual. It's stand here, go here, say this. You have to really pare it back. And I miss the kind of crazy, wild megalomania of writing fiction. But at the same time, when you write a screenplay and produce it, you get to work with amazingly talented designers and actors and musicians and designers, directors, editors. It's a whole new palette of, a whole new set of tools. So I love both, but I do miss the kind of the power that the novelist has to just tell the reader in a very straightforward way.
And then allow them to create their own version of what you're writing. So with that said,
Yeah.
I've asked this to authors before, do you replace the version of the characters in your mind that you wrote when you see them on screen? Like,
Uh, yeah, I kind of do. The main character in this, Douglas, is played by a wonderful actor called Tom Hollander, exceptional actor. And, I wrote the novel 10 years ago. I wrote it when I was a long way from being Douglas's age. I could tweak the script just to match his rhythms and his sense of humor, his physicality. So that's a great pleasure for me to work with actors and to write with actors in mind. But when I write fiction, I try and keep all of that out of my head and allow the reader to cast the role, if you like.
Right, right, of course. And I'd love to talk to you about endings. And, you know, because
Yeah.
all of the reviews of this, people describe the book and the show as a romantic comedy, but it, and spoiler alert, everybody don't listen further. I don't want to give anything away if you haven't read or watched, but it doesn't end happy, so
No.
but talk to me about writing these endings and creating ones that are real rather than the storybook happy
Yeah.
ending.
I'm not very good at those happy endings. There's always a little voice in my head that's saying, yes, but, you've spent hours exploring the problems in a relationship, and then you want to just kind of put them to one side and believe that everyone has learned a lesson. I'm skeptical, which isn't to say the ending is unhappy either. It's just complicated. I wanted to reflect the ambiguities and difficulties of real life. The last hour of this show is a real roller coaster. It's very, very emotional. It's very tearful. It's very funny, but also deeply sad. And I love that combination. It's a word I try and avoid, but a lot of what I write is bittersweet. It's in some ways quite cynical and quite tough, and at the same time, I hope it's generous in its spirit and optimistic in its outlook.
And such is life, and that's what I
Yeah.
think is a beautiful reflection of that. So thank you for putting it out there, and all of your other work is incredible too. So anyone who would like to follow you, where is the best place? Are you on Instagram?
I'm not, I'm afraid. No, I'm on Twitter.
Okay.
All I really say on Twitter is hello and thank you. I'm very boring, but I'm much more vocal on Twitter than I am anywhere else. So Twitter is the best place to go.
Okay, perfect. We'll put up your Twitter handle. David, thank you so much for your time. It was so nice to virtually meet you.
Very nice to meet you too. Thank you for having me.